Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to tonight, the SkolCast, live here on Facebook. My name is Chris Wilkie, and along with my co-host Jeremy Carter, and follow us live definitely on Twitter. You can reach us on Twitter at VikingsBeat, also on Facebook.com/VikingsBeat, and we're joined by a real special guest tonight, Jeremy, former Hutchinson football star here locally, along with North Dakota State University football star Robbie Grimsley. And boy, we're excited to have him on. Robbie, welcome tonight.
Thank you. Appreciate you guys having me on.
You bet. So, Robbie, we'll kind of dive right in here. So you've kind of had a whirlwind few weeks here with everything. Tell us about the last few weeks that you've had here. I know you've kind of transitioned a little bit from your college life, but you've also done a couple of an NFL tryout here recently. And how's that whirlwind been for you?
Yeah, really, it goes back to the training for the pro day. That was just a grind, 2 months straight of straight working out and doing all the combine drills and learning what the DB drills would be like come pro day. And when that came, I actually thought I had a pretty good day. It went well from what I was kind of expecting. And then I knew come draft day that I wouldn't be drafted, but I was gonna hear from some teams after. And the Saints called in and said they want to bring me in on a minicamp deal, and it was a cool experience. They brought in about 70 rookies or so. There was a few few second-year guys that have been in the league, kind of bouncing around a little bit, and they wanted to see what they were like too. But there was about 70 of us, and it was a good experience. It was a grind for 3 days. It was like fall camp basically for 3 days down there, and unfortunately didn't get picked up from that, but they only signed one guy, so had kind of long odds going into it. But it is what it is. I left everything I had out there, and it was fun. Definitely experience, definitely not something a lot of guys get to do. So
now you also the Saints called you, and then I believe the San Francisco 49ers made a call too to you, right, to come out to minicamp as well.
Yeah. So the the way it actually worked out is we knew. I knew that everything was going to go by really quick. Like, you got to respond to teams really fast after the draft is over. So the 49ers actually called first, and I was trying to contact my agent and ask if that was a good fit or whatever, because he wanted me to make sure I was going to a good spot. And so I was trying to get word back from him, if it was a good spot for me to go to or whatever. And so when I finally got back to the 49ers, like 10 minutes later, they were like, "Oh, spot's already full. Sorry."
Wow.
So
Boy,
it's
that is fast. Wow.
And then the Saints called in like right after that, and we were like, "Well, we're gonna accept because we don't want to risk that happening again." So yeah. So I don't know if there would have been other teams or what, but we just kind of took that one just because of what had just happened with the 49ers.
So when you go to minicamp, what was it? There was a 3-day minicamp there. What's a typical day there? Do you get up early in the morning? Do they have you there for breakfast? Do you start watching some film and going through some playbooks, and then go out on the field, and then they want you to execute certain formations or certain plays or certain defensive schemes, or kind of take us through one of those days? I got to imagine, and I think most people imagine, someone like you going to a minicamp, it's packed all day, and they're asking you to do a lot of things mentally, where you're having to pick up a lot of things fairly quickly, and then execute those things during the same day. So take us through that process of not only the physical part of it, but the mental side of things, and how quickly they're expecting you to learn things or pick up things that they're teaching you, if they are.
Well, it's funny that you say that. Apparently, a bunch of teams do it really differently. Like, I was talking to some of the guys, and there's teams in the league that don't even have you practice. They just have you watch film and answer questions in meetings and see if you can know the game in the minicamp. But then when I went to the Saints, we were up at 6 a.m. doing 2-a-days for, each practice was an hour and a half long, full 11 on 11. And I guess all the camps are a mix between, some teams don't do really much of anything, and other teams just go all out and see what you can do for 3 days. So as far as the Saints go, it was full days. I mean, we got in Thursday night, got our playbook, had some meetings, threw in about 3 calls, got up the next day, threw in another 3 calls before the first practice. You had to know 6 of their calls before practice 1 even started.
Okay.
And then after each practice, they threw in 3 more calls. I mean, we knew half their defense. We learned it in 3 days, and we had to pick it up, just like that. I mean, that wasn't really a problem for me, but it was just, it was hectic, and it was, if they really throw everything they can at you to see if you can pick it up, and if you're one of those guys that can handle it, because that's what it's going to be like come game day. So I think I like that aspect. I like that that's how they did it, because it gave me the best chance to show what I can do. As far as getting out there and making plays and doing stuff. So I actually got put into a fortunate situation with that. But yeah, so it was pretty, day in and day out. We were up at 6 a.m. We were back at the hotel at 11 p.m. And then you did that for 3 days.
So when you're there, they're kind of throwing the book at you as far as that goes, asking you to know a lot in a short period of time, and just basically saying, absorb all this as fast as you can, and then let's see what shakes out at the end is kind of what it sounds like, huh, Robbie?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, we didn't get too much into like their exotic calls, but we learned their whole base defense and everything, and all the first, second down calls, and even some third down calls by the end of it. But it was just, all the checks to them and everything, just to make it seem as real as they could out there, even for the coaches to help evaluate you. You gotta at least throw some calls in there so that they can know what they're looking at, and I think that was part of it too.
So at the end of the mini camp, when you kind of go through that whole process, that 3 days, and the coaching staff or the administration, they said, hey, these are the people we want to keep on the roster at least after mini camp, and these are the people that we don't want to bring in further. Do they give you any type of feedback? Any things that they say, hey, these are some things you did real well, some things that that maybe that weren't quite as strong as maybe some of the other candidates that's out there, or do they not really say much to you? Do they say, hey, thanks for your time, and you don't make the cut and kind of move on? Do you get any feedback from the coaching staff on some of the things that you do real well, some of the things that they thought maybe they wanted you to pick up a little bit quicker, or maybe some things when you're running 11-on-11 drills, that they thought maybe didn't quite show out on the field like maybe they had hoped, or not?
Yeah, well, no. Kind of, yes and no. When they first let us go, they only signed 1 guy, so they I guess they just pulled that guy aside and said, hey, we're gonna keep you. And as far as like the rest of us go, they didn't say anything to us. They just let us get on the bus. And one of their assistant like low-level guys just like told, because it was after the 3rd practice or 5th practice, 3rd day, we all were eating lunch, and they were like, okay, coaches haven't talked to you, you can get on the bus. So they didn't really tell us that we didn't make it. They didn't have any conversation with us. They were just like, yeah, you can go on the bus and go home. Okay. If no one talked to you. But my agent contacted them after and asked, what did you think? And they just told me, they said that I picked up everything really well, and they thought I was really smart and could tell I played a lot in college, had a lot of experience, but they just didn't think I was fast enough for the NFL game. So that was like their feedback for me. But no, they didn't tell me that directly or anything.
Okay.
So at this point, then once that particular the stint with the Saints ended here, moving forward, are there any other opportunities to try out again, do you think, or kind of how moving forward, could it look like for the NFL landscape, or do you think there's going to be any other opportunities, or what does that maybe look like?
There could be. I would have to keep working out and stay in shape and everything, and but there would be for the NFL. It would basically be next year's mini camp. I could get another invite from a team who wants to see me, as far as NFL goes. Because, people do get signed, but usually right now, like, teams are signing guys that get cut from other teams. So they're not really looking at guys like me who didn't get picked up to begin with. So my next opportunity would be a mini camp deal next year, and I don't think I'm going to stay in shape for that. Or I think I'm going to, like I said, focus on going to law school and studying for, the LSAT and stuff. So I think that's where my next move is, but yeah, that's kind of, I guess at least that's what my agent told me, is teams are looking to sign guys who have already been signed but got released, that sort of thing.
No, I hear you. No, well, and the good thing is from a positive note, you got an opportunity to try out, and that's there's that is just a
Diamond in the
select
rough.
diamond in the
Yeah,
rough, and a
not
select
many guys
few
do.
of people that get a chance to do that. So you should be very proud of yourself for being able to have that opportunity. So, a question that I have is, so like when the Saints do something like that, do they pick up all the expenses for you? Do they pay for you to get down there and everything that you would possibly need for that time when you're down there?
Yeah, they covered everything. They flew us out there and had a hotel. They had a whole hotel set up for all the guys staying there, and picked your roommate and everything. And basically, it was just, I mean, you flew in and you were getting football activities right away. And we didn't see the hotel was right next to the facility, so we didn't see any of New Orleans or get to do anything. There was no downtime or anything. And then right after the fifth day, or the fifth practice ended, we were eating lunch, and they said get on the bus, and then you got on the bus and you went and got on a plane and went home. So it was all covered and everything, and they had already arranged it. But yeah, so it was kind of all set up. It was pretty nice.
Still a whirlwind though.
Everything
Oh
goes
yeah.
fast, doesn't it? When you went from the end of the season, NDSU to
Oh
the
yeah.
draft to the minicamp to getting the calls and kind of going through that process. Let's take a
Yeah.
let's take a step back to NDSU. I mean, I think a lot of people in the state, a lot of people in the region, a lot of people in the Midwest, they've been following you. I talked to a lot of people that followed your NDSU career. You were a four-year starter there. You won, I think, 3 national titles. You were on the top of the career leaderboard in a lot of different categories. So a lot of people have been following you. A lot of people followed you in high school. I think out in this area, there's a lot of the younger people that maybe didn't know how spectacular your high school career was. Back in the day, you graduated in 2015, but you were Metro Player of the Year in 2014. You were Mr. Football for the state of Minnesota. I mean, you have quite a resume of things that you've done, and maybe some of the things that maybe people don't know about you, the listeners out there, is you were as equally good as a track star as well. Many people know that you have quite a few records and are at the top of quite a few records in the Hutchinson High School. You were an All-State honoree twice in the 100-meter dash, and you've done some things. And so it was kind of interesting to listen that when you say maybe you didn't quite have the NFL speed, but I look at a lot of the records and a lot of the times that you ran even in high school, and boy, I mean, there's some speed there. So it's just kind of interesting hearing you say that was one of the things that maybe didn't quite resonate well with the NFL level. And obviously we all understand that the NFL level, they're elite speed, but I would classify you as one of those guys that has that speed to move around. So I thought that was quite interesting, but quite a resume that you have. Any positive things any things that you think were highlights of your NDSU career, outside of the national titles, or things that you remember, things that are interesting for you to let the viewers know about or kind of share with us?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the national titles are what stick out to you, but I think a lot of the most interesting memories are just from freshman year, because I had no idea I was going to be playing. I knew I'd get a shot because I knew both the safeties the year prior were seniors, so I knew there'd be a couple openings, and they told me that I would have a legit chance to compete coming in freshman year, and even leading up to that first game, I didn't think I was going to get in at all. I traveled, and at that time I was the backup, and I was even at possible third string. I wasn't even thinking I was going to get in, and then the guy ahead of me had a rough series, the series before, and then Coach Kleiman at the time just turned to me and he's like, "You're going in next." And
Welcome
and
to the fire.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
And I was ready. I was prepared as much as I could be. Obviously, I was a freshman. I got on campus 3 or 4 weeks ago, but I did what I could to prepare, and so it was like I didn't even have time to be nervous or even think about it at all, because I had 3 minutes before I was on the field. So I think I kind of take that as a blessing in disguise, because I didn't have to think about it for a whole week. If you knew you were starting, you have to think about it. But since I didn't even know I'd be playing and I just got to be thrown out there, I wasn't nervous or anything. So, but no, and then ever since then, I got in every game, and then halfway through the year I started starting. So it was an interesting first game or two out there, especially playing in front of the first home game in front of our fans was pretty nuts. I remember that, getting out there, and the dome just feels so big, especially coming from Hutch, obviously, I mean, we had great fans. I mean, but it's not. I mean, it's not nothing like playing, in the Fargo Dome, and so I had never experienced anything like that before. So I
Yeah.
think just those freshman year, just seeing what real, obviously Division I football is like, and then actually getting a chance to start and play with a bunch of those guys, and obviously, got to play with Carson a little bit there, and it was just it made a lot of memories that year, and then just started to grow then.
Yeah, that's awesome. No, and one of the things that kind of stood out to me in your bio and some of the information that I was looking at is you made 52 straight starts. You know, you had some unbelievable durability during your college career. I mean, not a lot of people can say that in any sport of any kind that they made 52 straight starts. Was there any point in time where that was ever in jeopardy as far as an injury concern or anything like that, or were you pretty healthy most of the time?
There was, I mean, there was probably times where I could have, took a game off just to, heal up or, get totally healthy. But I never felt like that was something, like I just never saw that as an option because I felt like I was good enough to play, and I never wanted to see someone else go out there and be in my spot. So I mean, there was definitely times, I would have a hamstring issue or, an ankle issue, but those are not things they weren't ever I saw as a problem to keep me from a game. So at the end of the day, it was never really a question whether I was going out there or not. So I just never really saw it like that. I just figured, if I can run and if I can still cover people, I'm gonna be out there. So
It's a good attitude to have.
Yeah,
It's
it is.
a good attitude.
It's a good life
It is.
attitude.
That is.
So with NDSU, obviously people know that NDSU buys, and that's a powerhouse football program, right? And the fans travel about as well as a lot of the NFL teams. And so when you have a powerhouse football franchise like that, that's just expected to make it to national titles on a regular basis, and I think sometimes people take that for granted. You obviously need to have good players there, and I think NDSU has done a good job of recruiting top-level players. But what's the culture like? I mean, what sets NDSU apart from some of the other football programs as far as the culture that creates that expectation or that winning ability by the coaching staff and the players out on the field that creates that type of longevity and consistency of making it far into the playoffs? What do you think? What's attributable to that?
I think the biggest thing, and I don't know what it's like at other programs, but I think the biggest thing at NDSU that leads to our success is guys are just always willing to help other guys. No matter if it's a senior who doesn't play trying to get a freshman on the field, or a senior helping a junior out because he's the first time he's playing, or even a sophomore trying to show a freshman like what it's like around here. Everyone's just willing to help each other out and help them do whatever they can for the program, and everyone buys in, and everyone does what they can. And obviously you hear select stories of certain guys who are team guys, but I think everyone buys in, and if they don't buy in, they don't make it. And so I think that's the biggest thing that makes NDSU successful is the guys, they want to be successful so badly, so they do whatever they can to help the incoming guys, or the guys who are going to play, or the guys who are going to get the spotlight plays and all that stuff. They do whatever they can throughout the season. I mean, through winter, summer, spring ball, all that stuff, so that they're ready for the fall. They don't just come fall time try to prepare for themselves. They prepare in winter, and that's when they start preparing. So we always talk about how it's a full year. It's not just a fall season. So I think that was probably the biggest thing that made us successful.
Yeah, that's awesome. That is good. One of the things that I wanted to bring up too, as far as kind of non-football related, was that you were on the all academic team 3 times, which means you were obviously well-rounded as far as not only your athletics, but as a student as well, and keeping up your grades and different things like that. So how was it balancing all that throughout your college career?
I think it was something to get used to, especially freshman year. I think freshman year was probably my worst year, honestly, because it is something to get used to. I mean, football takes up 20 hours a week, especially during the fall. It takes 24 hours a week. So it's definitely something to get used to. But they kind of help you transition. I mean, they're so good with, ACEs. We call it ACE tutor system. I mean, they had to get mandatory tutoring hours our freshman year just to make sure we can get that transition down. And once you get a hang of it, and once you kind of know what it's like, the fall is going to be really tough, and then the winter you get some time off, and then spring ball rolls around and it gets tough again. And I think once you just kind of set yourself a schedule and know like this is what I have to do, and I got to take care of my business, then it, and especially by junior senior year, I mean you've done it for 2 years already. You kind of know what it's going to be like. Sometimes it is a little too hard for some guys, but I don't know. I just think once you kind of figured out the schedule and was able to know when you had to do what, you got used to it a little bit.
Yeah, it sounds like you had to have, you had to kind of set a routine and a regimented schedule as far as being able to balance the school, and then I'm assuming you probably get, a lot of times you have 2-a-days where you're practicing twice a day and then trying to fit in, some lunch and some schoolwork and some classes in between some of those things. So I can see how that's got to be really regimented, and you got to kind of stick to a schedule at certain times during the week.
Yeah, and they kind of help it. They help us out with like the scheduling of our classes too. So they say, you're gonna have practice and lift and stuff during this time. You're gonna want to give yourself time to get to those things. You don't want to schedule class, 10 minutes up until something, and so they focus on our schedules and know that we're going to be busy at certain times. So they kind of help us out and tell us when to schedule what. And if there's ever a class conflict, they tend to talk to the teachers and see if they can get us in a different class and stuff. And so they help us out as much as we can, just because they know we're already going to have so much of a time constraint, because it's not like we can just be like, hey, we'll practice at a different time, because there's 100 guys on the team and only 3 guys have a class conflict at that time. So they kind of have to schedule your class around when football is going to be. So I think that's the thing that a lot of people don't understand. They're like, well, school comes first. Well, yeah, it comes first, but there's a football schedule time. Like there's a time for the lift, there's a time for practice, and they don't ever change those times. So you kind of have to schedule your school around that.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's great. So let's go a little bit further back into the archives for just a couple last minutes here and we won't keep you much longer. But so let's go back to Hutchinson High School a little bit and just talk about that for a couple minutes. You were on some pretty awesome teams here in Hutch. You won you were part of a couple state title teams. There was one game I remember. I went with my daughter to the prep bowl and watched you, and that was the 67-7 prep bowl championship game against Holy Family.
Yeah.
So that would have been your sophomore year. Would that have been right?
Yep.
Sophomore year. Yeah.
Okay. So I remember sitting there with her, and we're just watching the game, and you guys just absolutely dominated Holy Family that game. And I remember a bunch of students walked down to try to get to the student section for the next game, and they just said, oh my word, 67-7. They just couldn't even believe that was the score of the game. It was just, you guys absolutely dominated. And what was it like being a part of those couple state title teams? Was that all? Putting it into perspective now that you've won 3 national titles at NDSU, but what was that like as well? Just coming from Hutch and experiencing that.
I think the first one was, I don't want to say a surprise to us, but given how, my freshman year we played Mankato West that year, and they had met Philip Nelson, and they kind of, whooped up on us pretty good, and that was in the, I don't know, section finals or state quarters or something.
Mm-hmm.
And just coming off that, we knew we'd have a good team my sophomore year, but we had no idea we'd be able to run the table like that and go through those teams like we did, especially in the state championship like that. So I think that one, was kind of sweet because, it had been so long since we had been there. I think what was it, 2003 was the last time we were there,
Yeah.
and then 98 or whatever is the last time we won. So I think that was just, awesome for Hutch, and everyone was so happy. But then, going into my junior year, we were like, okay, well, obviously we got to repeat. And obviously, we felt we even had a better team going in junior year. And we were like, we really got to, show what we can do. And I think that was something we were looking forward to, is just proving that, because we had a great senior class my sophomore year. And I think it was just proving that my junior year and, Tori Adams senior year and those guys, and that we could still do it and we could repeat and stuff like that. So I think that was the biggest thing going into that year, was just, trying to maintain and do as well as we could, and ended up, obviously going undefeated that year too, and winning it all.
Yeah, that's awesome. I have one question from a viewer online. So, what kind of diet did you need to follow in college? Was it strict, or and then also did the college kind of help you out there, or take care of some of the meals as far as that goes?
They didn't really have us on a strict. We had a cafeteria, and if you're on scholarship, you got to eat at cafeteria for free. And they had a lot of options. There's 3 different cafeterias, and each cafeteria had multiple options. I mean, it was a nice setup. They're all right on campus. But as far as like the coaches watching us, they didn't put us on a strict meal plan per se, but they did measure our body comps. So measure our fat percentage and our muscle percentage and stuff like that. And obviously, if your fat percentage got too high or something, they would go and put you on a meal plan, or a diet plan, I should say, and really crack down on you. But as long as you were putting on, good weight and doing what you're supposed to do and hitting your weight goals, they didn't really care, and they didn't really watch over you too much. But it was a little different for each group. Like the freshmen, the redshirt guys, the freshmen, they lift a lot more than the older guys do, and they have them on a little more strict meal plan. Sometimes they watch them eat and make sure they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. But when you're an older guy, you kind of know what you have to do to take care of your body and to build muscle and to stay in shape. And so they don't really watch you too much, as long as your body fat doesn't go too high. Then they don't really watch us. They just trust that we'd be able to handle it on our own.
So when those freshmen are coming in, typically, a lot of times you hear, you get to that next level, in a football program, they, sometimes some guys are, fairly muscular, have enough muscle and kind of have that right body composition. And sometimes when they come in, they say, hey, we'd like you to put on 20 pounds of muscle. And so obviously the weight rooms and those things that get you stronger is one component, but also to build some muscle mass. Do a lot of these programs, will they give you protein supplements and things to kind of help, outside of just the cafeteria eating? Because I got to imagine it takes a lot of time to go into the cafeteria and always constantly eat. But, after a workout, do they have protein shakes? Do they have supplements or things that rehydrate you that are part of the program, or how does that typically work?
Yeah, that's actually something NDSU got a lot more of during my time there. They got a brand new fueling station, they call it. It's connected to the weight room. You can make shakes, and they got all sorts of food and protein shakes and smoothies and stuff. And they put that in, I think it was after my sophomore year. And they made huge strides in that aspect of it while I was there, just because, the money they were making from the championship runs, and they used it towards us. They put it back in the weight room and back in the fueling stations for all the athletes and stuff, which we really appreciated. And that's something they made strides on. But I'm sure the bigger, the big D1 programs, they've been doing that stuff for years with the protein shakes and the creatine and all that stuff, just because they know it works, and they know that's what is going to give them an edge. So NDSU has really been stepping their game up the last few years. So now they got all that stuff that you can get whatever you want after a workout right at the fueling station.
Oh, cool. Well, good. Jeremy, any other questions for you tonight? Otherwise,
no. I think for the viewers and the fans, you graduated in December of last year in criminal justice, right? And
yep.
If nothing pans out with football, you're going to be going on to law school. So, I appreciate you taking the time to call in and chat with us a little bit. And wish you the very best in your future. Again, I think your resume and your accomplishments at every level that you've played any type of athletic sport has been at a high level. And I've heard a lot of good things about your athletic ability and your personality and your mental capacity to grow things, and just the nice guy that you are from people around the community and people that know you. So again, this is just another testament of you be taking some time and the willingness to call in and just kind of share some of your thoughts and on the mini camp and how your NDSU career went for the people that like to follow you around here and have been following you for quite a few years. So appreciate your time from my aspect.
No, yeah, I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah,
really,
Robbie.
really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. And once again, I'll echo what Jeremy said too. Just your approachability and being willing to schedule this out and join us again. So appreciate it. And let's definitely, if something happens to pan out with football here down the road, and even if it doesn't, let's keep in touch, and we'll definitely look forward to keeping up with you over the coming years.
Yeah, of course. All right.
All right, Robbie.
Sounds good.
Sounds good. Well, you have a good rest of the week, and good luck finding a job this summer here.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, Robbie.
All
take
right,
care.
thank you.
Robbie Grimsley, everybody. Thanks for
Bye.
joining.